On the early morning of July 1st, 2025, a deafening crack shattered the silence along the Yangtze River. In the outskirts of Guangzhou, upstream of the Three Gorges Dam reservoir, a mountainside collapsed, unleashing a torrent of mud rocks and trees. The deluge obliterated citrus orchards, blocked rural roads leading to a cluster of homes nestled between the hillside and Asia's mightiest river. Miraculously, no lives were lost, but the devastation-strewn debris and isolated villages served as a chilling warning of the consequences of treating the reservoir's water levels like a faucet. For geologists, this landslide was just another entry in the 600-kilometer chronicle of instability along the Three Gorges Reservoir. But it was merely the prelude to a cascade of disasters that would rock China from Sichuan to Liaoning, from Hubei to Guizhou, exposing a full-blown crisis, economic, social, and political, that the Chinese Communist Party (CCP) is desperately trying to conceal. Record-breaking rainfall, flash floods, and unannounced dam releases from tens of thousands of reservoirs turned the summer of 2025 into a nightmare. Over 329 rivers across the country breached flood warning levels, from the Min River in Sichuan to the Tonghe River in Henan. Major cities like Chengdu, Dalian, and Xiangfen were submerged, while downstream villages were swept away by sudden dam discharges. The colossal dam system, once hailed as a symbol of progress, has become a lethal threat, pushing citizens to the brink of survival. Meanwhile, the CCP's tight censorship and propaganda campaigns attempt to obscure the truth, but the cries of the people and viral social media videos paint a grim picture of a nation grappling with a disaster born of both nature and human error. The vortex of silt and floods, the Three Gorges. Dams fallout. The Three Gorges Dam, the world's largest hydroelectric project, lies at the heart of the 2025 flood crisis. Designed to control floods, generate power, and facilitate navigation, it now stands as a symbol of engineering and political missteps. The reservoir's water level fluctuates between 145 meters during flood season and 175 meters for power generation, creating a 30-meter band of land that alternates between submersion and exposure. This wet-dry cycle cracks the clay soil, destabilizing hillsides, especially when prolonged rains from Sichuan to Chongqing saturate the fissures. On July 16th, the dam opened 11 floodgates, releasing 52,000 cubic meters of water per second downstream, only the second such event since its operation began. The result was a surge in water levels in Hunan, Anqing, and Hubei, pushing Dongting Lake and Poyang Lake to critical thresholds. Poyang Lake swelled to 4,260 square kilometers, its largest extent in a decade, while Dongting Lake hit the red line, threatening unfinished earthen dikes. Dr. Wang Weiluo, a water expert involved in the dam's planning, revealed that flood discharges are often conducted quietly, sometimes at midnight, to protect the reservoir and evade accountability. They sacrifice the downstream to save the upstream, he said. This is a political decision, not a technical one. The cost has been catastrophic. In Xiangfen County, Hubei, 350 millimeters of rain fell in 12 hours from June 30th to July 1st, turning streets into rivers with water depths exceeding 2.5 meters. Cars were overturned, bridges collapsed, and over 18,000 people were evacuated. Ms. Li, a herbal medicine shop owner, lost her entire inventory to the floodwaters. A lifetime of work vanished in one night, she sobbed. Nearby, Ms. Chen, a young woman, watched her new car get swept away, barely escaping to higher ground. The Three Gorges Dam's consequences extend beyond flooding. Silt trapped behind the dam reduces reservoir capacity, forcing earlier and larger flood releases, creating a vortex of silt and flood surges. Downstream, the lack of silt erodes riverbeds, drawing seawater inland and amplifying tidal surges. Droughts cripple hydroelectric power, while flood discharges cloudfish cages and strand yacht docks. Economic losses ripple outward, draining provincial budgets while resettled families are pushed into compensation limbo towns on hillsides where they face renewed risks of flash floods and landslides. Social crisis. The pain and fury of the people. The 2025 floods are not just a natural disaster, but a social crisis. In Dalian Liaoning, a record 146.5 millimeters of rain from July 1st to 4 turned streets into rivers, underground parking lots into lakes, and even brought fish into residential elevators. A blogger documented 649 lightning strikes in a single night, calling it the most terrifying rain in Dalian's history. Residents trapped in floodwaters climbed onto car roofs to call for help, while the city's sponge city drainage infrastructure collapsed spectacularly. "This is the sponge city they promised," one resident quipped on Douyin, pointing to cars floating in the water. In Liangjiang County, Guizhou flash floods and mudslides swept away homes, with locals accusing authorities of hiding the true death toll. Mr. Li, a victim, recounted finding 2 bodies in a supermarket parking lot, but the information was never reported. "They call it a natural disaster to dodge responsibility," he said. Similarly, in Nanyang, Henan, 700 millimeters of rain in 24 hours on July 17th submerged fields and homes after the Yehao Reservoir secretly discharged water. Ms. Xiao, a small shop owner, lost 1.5 million yuan in savings when her store was inundated. "No one warned us. We built our lives and the dam's water erased it all," she wept. Anger spread across social media, but posts criticizing the government were swiftly censored. Images of officials in life jackets posing on rubber boats in shallow puddles were mocked as rescue theater. A Henan farmer prayed amid a muddy field. "Last month we prayed for rain. Now we beg it to stop. Our crops are drowning. Trust in the government eroded with whispers of opacity and prioritizing image over lives. They let the river swallow our homes to save their dam." Ms. Liu from Baoji Shanxi fumed. The CCP's secrets. Censorship and propaganda. Behind the floodwaters, a relentless propaganda machine operates. The CCP heavily censors posts about dam safety, actual water levels, and casualty figures. Live streams exposing flood discharges are taken down, while senior officials like Vice Premier Zhang Guoqing are absent from disaster zones. Commentator Li Lingyi noted that since Xi Jinping took power, he has abandoned the tradition of predecessors like Hu Jintao and Wen Jiabao, who visited flood-hit areas to offer support. "They only show up when the water recedes to feign concern," Li said. Meanwhile, relief efforts are performative, with central teams distributing instant noodles and small cash envelopes like alms. Dr. Wang Weiluo calls the flood disasters a gray rhino, large obvious risks ignored. He revealed that China has nearly 100,000 reservoirs, with at least 40% unsafe due to rushed construction, thin concrete, and lax inspections. "A government not elected by the people doesn't prioritize their interests," he said. Unannounced flood discharges have become a hallmark of China's water management, with officials prioritizing dam protection and their own positions over public safety. In Yichang, Hubei in 2020, flooding from discharges at the Three Gorges and Gorges dams inundated the city center, but authorities initially denied the releases, only admitting them under public pressure. Climate scientist Peter Gleich emphasized that the environmental damage from the Three Gorges Dam is immense, while Michael Oslin from the Hoover Institution warned that a major dam failure could be a death knell for the CCP's legitimacy. If the dam fails, the government's assurances will collapse, sparking social unrest, he said. Yet instead of releasing flood data or improving infrastructure, the CCP focuses on controlling information, hiding the disaster's true scale, and blaming rare storms. Economic crisis. Unfathomable losses. The 2025 floods have dealt a severe blow to China's economy. In Xiangfen, Hubei, over 200 shops and 100 vehicles were submerged, with property losses reaching millions of yuan. In Dalian, underground parking and urban infrastructure were destroyed, while in Chengdu, floodwaters inundated subway stations and high-tech zones, submerging dozens of vehicles and paralyzing traffic. Discharges from hydroelectric plants like Dushu in Hunan swept away crops, fish cages, and yacht docks, devastating agriculture and tourism. Government compensation plans address only a fraction of the damage, ignoring loss of life or long-term impacts. In countries like Germany or the US, governments or insurers fully compensate flood victims, but China lacks such a system. "We lost everything, and they just hand out instant noodles," Mr. Chen, a farmer downstream of the Three Gorges, said bitterly. "Maintaining aging reservoirs costs billions of yuan annually, straining provincial budgets. Climate change exacerbates the crisis with stronger storms dumping 3 to 4 times historical rainfall on cities unprepared to cope." Rumors and fear. The tsunami prophecy. Amid the flood chaos, a rumor of a July 5th tsunami in the Sea of Japan sparked panic in Dalian. The rumor stemmed from Ryo Tatsuki's manga, The Future I Saw, predicting a tsunami 3 times larger than the 2011 disaster. Though scientists debunked it, citing no seismic or meteorological evidence, residents stockpiled supplies and practiced evacuations. "I've never seen thunder and lightning last all night like that," a Dalian blogger wrote. "I'm genuinely scared." Should I drive inland? Japan's meteorological agency confirmed that the 2025 typhoon season remained within normal bounds, but public fear reflected distrust in official announcements. In China, where information is tightly controlled, such rumors spread rapidly, filling the void left by government opacity. "We don't know who to trust," a Dalian resident said. "The government says the dam is safe, but we sleep with one eye open waiting for the flood." A call to action. Rebuilding trust. The 2025 floods in China are not just a story of rain and water, but a warning of weak governance, decaying infrastructure, and the CCP's lack of transparency. Experts call for change, restoring floodplains, releasing real-time flood data, upgrading urban drainage, and promptly compensating affected households. Only open data can rebuild trust, Dr. Wang Weiluo stressed. But China's growth machine is trapped in conflicting priorities. Cheap electricity, fish farm leases, and lakeside tourism outweigh long-term safety. Share your story in the comments. The voices of the people, from farmers to shopkeepers, are living proof of this disaster's scale. Subscribe and turn on notifications for the latest updates on China's flood crisis. We are committed to uncovering the truth, amplifying the voices of those affected, and exposing the secrets the CCP is trying to hide. Thank you for standing with us. In mid-August 2025, as the world focuses on trade talks and climate change, China is quietly facing a perfect storm. From the depths of the Yangtze River to the secretive boardrooms of Beijing, a series of catastrophic events is exposing deep cracks in the Chinese Communist Party's CCP system. The Three Gorges Dam, once hailed as a symbol of industrial might, has become the epicenter of a full-scale disaster. Self-induced earthquakes, man-made floods, and dark secrets concealed to protect the regime's image. This isn't just the story of a collapsing dam. It's a portrait of a nation sinking under economic, social, and political crises, where the CCP prioritizes power over human lives. The awakening of the earth. Earthquakes from within. On July 30th, 2025, an 8.7 magnitude earthquake off the coast of Russia sent shockwaves rippling through the ocean floor, heading straight for the Xinlu Fault, a massive geological fracture running through central China. Chinese geologists issued urgent warnings, but the real question chilling scientists is this: is this the primary threat, or merely the final push for a geological system already strained by human hands? The Three Gorges Dam, with its colossal reservoir holding 39 billion cubic meters of water, is generating its own earthquakes, turning once peaceful lands into a seismic battleground. Since the reservoir was filled in 2003, earthquake frequency in the area has surged 7 to 8-fold. Just months after the initial filling, over 600 minor tremors struck Badong County. By 2004, a 3.0 magnitude quake cracked homes and sent 100-kilogram boulders tumbling from hillsides. In 2008, when the water level first hit 175 meters, a 4.6 magnitude quake rippled 400 kilometers. The peak came in 2012 with 152 quakes in a single day, followed by a 5.1 magnitude event in 2013 that tore through Badong, confirmed to be caused by the reservoir's water pressure injecting into the overlooked 15-kilometer LCH fault. A study in Geophysical Research Letters reveals a terrifying scenario. The LCH fault could trigger a 6.5 magnitude quake, with a 13% chance of exceeding the dam's design limits. In March 2014, twin quakes of 4.2 and 4.5 magnitudes hit Zigwai. In June 2017, quakes of 4.8 and 4.6 collapsed 160 buildings with ground acceleration of 0.165 g, 3 times the construction standard. History echoes the 1967 Gorges Dam disaster in India, which killed 180 people. The CCP dismisses these as stabilizing tremors, but science delivers a stark verdict. The dam is creating its own killer. Man-made floods, disaster from sky and human hands. Fast forward to summer 2025, and floods have turned China into a deadly sea. Since early July, the Ministry of Water Resources admitted 336 rivers exceeded warning levels, but the tragedy began earlier. On June 29th, a storm hit Sichuan, forcing the Zaping Pool Reservoir to release a deluge, submerging Chengdu. In Guizhou, Rangjiang County faced 2 flood waves on June 24th and 28th, the worst in 3 decades. From June 30th to July 1st, Xiangyang was swallowed by sudden floods, with streets vanishing in 3 minutes. Since June 8th, Dunhu in Hunan has been underwater. On July 12th, Hangzhou's West Lake broke a 64-year rainfall record. On July 15th, Shenzhou village in Yunnan was battered by torrential rains. But nature isn't the sole culprit. The CCP deliberately diverts floods to low-lying areas to protect key regions. A Rangjiang resident accused, the floods were worse because upstream hydropower stations released water without warning. On June 23rd, the Tuoku plant opened 7 sluice gates, creating a man-made flood captured on social media. The Yangtze River is the epicenter. On June 30th, flood peaks from the Min and Jinsha rivers slammed into Yichang, rushing toward the Three Gorges Dam. By July 2nd, the reservoir level hit 152.87 meters, 7 meters above the danger mark, taking in 30,000 cubic meters per second, but releasing only 20,400. By July 7, it reached 171 meters, nearing the 175-meter limit. Key News revealed CCP leaders held frantic emergency meetings, activating red alerts and military coordination to prevent the dam's collapse at all costs. Releasing water saved the dam, but doomed downstream. Yichang, Wuhan, and Nanjing declared emergencies. Foundational lies, from geology to design. Behind the disaster lies a web of lies meticulously concealed by the CCP. First, the geology. The dam was promoted as built on solid granite, but it sits on the handling fold, a stressed, folded structure crisscrossed by active faults like Xiannu, Juan Creek, and Jiani. This isn't a stable foundation, but a living network of fractures. Second, the design. Engineers treated the 600-kilometer reservoir like a flat bathtub, leading to hydraulic miscalculations. In 2009, the dam's water level was 145 meters, but in Chongqing, it surged to 183 meters, causing flooding. Operational conflicts persist. Low water levels for flood control versus high levels for power generation. Professor Shi Wang noted, when downstream is dry, they store water. When it floods, they release it. State profits take precedence over safety. Third, Flood capacity. The claimed 22.15 billion cubic meter flood buffer is false, per a leaked letter from Chief Engineer Zhang Guangdou, exaggerated to push a political project. Safety was sacrificed for pride. Fourth, structure. The dam isn't a monolithic wall, but dozens of concrete blocks relying on weight, not deeply anchored. Designed to shift, it twists unevenly, cracking joints. Dr. Wang Wei Luo warned, "It's like Swiss cheese, with cuts for ship locks. Drone and kite bands near the dam betray fear." The 2016 final approval report was never released. The dam isn't officially complete. The path to catastrophe. A collapse scenario. The disaster could start with a 6.0 to 6.5 quake on the LCH fault or a distant pulse via Xinlu. Tremors trigger landslides, 4,000 risk points, 214 major zones, creating inland tsunamis rushing toward the dam. A full 175-meter reservoir lacks cushion, with control screens showing a false calm. Impact waves could overtop the dam, eroding its base, or panic-driven releases could unleash biblical floods downstream. Water surges into cracks, twisting concrete blocks and shearing joints. Collapse isn't a single crack, but a systemic execution. Geology, engineering, and structure failing in unison. NASA confirms the reservoir's mass slows Earth's rotation, amplifying quakes 30-fold. A collapse would displace 1.3 million people, submerge 13 cities, and erase cultural heritage. Profits flow to coastal elites, but daily transport chokes. Social crisis, abandoned victims, and hidden deaths. Chinese society is fracturing under the disaster's weight. In Shangfeng, Hubei, floods from June 30th to July 1st, coinciding with the CCP's anniversary, came without warning. A record 342.2 millimeters of rain in 12 hours swallowed streets. Mr. Hong said, "The river overflowed into shops, cars swept away. Aunt Lee lost her herbal business, Ms. Chen her new car. A couple died from electrocution, yet the CCP claimed no casualties, evacuating 18,000. Mr. Hang confirmed deaths, but information was suppressed. The CCP sacrifices communities, releasing water at night to evade scrutiny. China's 98,000 aging reservoirs, like the 1975 Bangao collapse that killed 240,000, amplify risks. People face floods alone, while leaders like Vice Premier Zhang Guing prioritize growth over relief. Relocation from the dam promised prosperity, but delivered poverty. The 2025 floods displaced millions, destroying homes and livelihoods. The CCP's deafening silence buries the true toll. Economic crisis, profits over lives, and global risks. China's economy is teetering. The dam prioritizes hydropower over flood control. High water levels maximize profit but reduce buffers. Dr. Durango called it a grand deception. Rules to lower levels to 145 meters during flood season are often ignored, leading to emergency releases. On July 16, 2024, 11 gates released 44,000 cubic meters per second, 3 West Lakes in a day, flooding downstream. Privatized dam operations favor profit over safety. Global supply chains are at risk. Apple and Tesla factories lie in flood paths. A collapse would paralyze energy, transport, and communication, costing billions and impacting the world. In Henan, a May 2025 drought saw leaders visit but ignore farmers. Floods crippled fields and factories, threatening food and production. Political crisis. The CCP and the wall of silence. Politics lies at the core. The CCP hides secrets to maintain power. Internal reports whisper of dam shifts, but public denials persist. Vice Minister Chen Ming admitted 329 rivers flooded, but leaders like Xi Jinping avoid disaster sites, unlike past eras. Zhongnanhai is in panic. Emergency meetings, wartime measures, orders to prevent dam collapse at all costs. But the cost is downstream lives. Information control claims no deaths, locks videos. Secrets like Jean Guando's letter and the overlooked LCH fault persist. The world must act, demand inspection reports, enforce accountability. Global firms must assess risks. The CCP denies the time bomb, prioritizing ambition over safety. The sword of Damocles and a call to action. The Three Gorges Dam symbolizes the CCP's collapse, from reckless pride to deadly cover-ups. A full-scale crisis, economic paralysis, social breakdown, political rot is evident. Scientific studies and citizen videos expose the lies. The world must break the silence, holding Beijing accountable before a total catastrophe strikes. The question remains, will the thread snap before we act?